You saw alien ships.
Yeah. He was with some of his colleagues at the time when he saw a very, very unusual object that he could not explain in any kind of technology that was familiar to him at the time.
For decades, whispers of Area 51 and its dark secrets have filled the collective imagination of ufologists and skeptics alike. And at the center of all this mystery is Bob Lazar, a figure as puzzling as the tales he tells. Bob Lazar has made a bold claim about the existence of a strange element, Element 115. But at the time he revealed this secret element, the world had thought of it as fiction until this recent revelation. Join us as we delve into how Bob Lazar finally reveals the mysterious Element 115 that has been hidden for decades. The man who made the world aware. In the late 1980s, one of the most intriguing and disputed individuals in ufology and extraterrestrial technology first came to light. Bob Lazar claimed to have worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft at S4, a top-secret site near Area 51. For many years, his statements have sparked debate, skepticism, and curiosity, particularly about the existence and use of Element 115, moscovium, as a power source for these spacecraft. Before disclosing his identity in a broadcast interview with investigative reporter George Knapp on local Las Vegas news, Bob Lazar was not well known. He became a member in 1989. Lazar discussed his alleged cooperation with the U.S. government on extraterrestrial technologies. Although Lazar claimed to have degrees from Caltech, the California Institute of Technology, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, his background was just as bizarre as his claims. Even though there is no documentation to support Lazar's claims, he claims that one of his duties at S4 was to thoroughly study an alien spaceship's propulsion system. He claimed that this system contained an antimatter reactor that employed Element 115.
Element 115 is a super heavy element. The craft uses larger quantities of it, 223-gram little triangles of it. But it's a unique element. When it's exposed to radiation, it produces its own gravitational field,
which at the time had not yet been identified or officially recognized by science. Lazar claims that the component provided the energy needed to create a gravitational field, which enabled the spacecraft to launch and travel across vast distances at extremely high speeds. In 2016, the previously theoretical Element 115, later known as moscovium, was created in response to Lazar's claims. Even though Element 115 had long been anticipated, it wasn't until 2003 that a team of Russian and American scientists created it. In addition, Lazar's descriptions of moscovium's characteristics did not precisely match the material's characteristics, especially its short half-life and instability. The fact that the element existed gave his claims an air of mystery. People question Lazar's story. Details dispute his experiences with Element 115. Critics bring up concerns because there are no steady isotopes to fuel alien drives, like Lazar suggested. His narrative doesn't have evidence of his schooling and work history, adding to doubts. People questioned Bob Lazar's stories about aliens and their spaceships. His claims did not align with established scientific concepts, but his story had a big impact on popular culture and UFO fans anyway. Some people think he was exposing government secrets. His talks on secret information and unknown alien technology gathered large online crowds. He shared these ideas on different platforms, such as events, articles, and films. Even now, opinions about Bob Lazar are split. This brave man broadened our understanding of strange flying objects and the potential existence of advanced alien technology. Without a doubt, Lazar's story has influenced the conversation about extraterrestrial life and e-technology by stretching beyond the boundaries of what we think is feasible and forcing us to consider beyond the well-established limitations of science and technology. Bob Lazar made us aware of Element 115 and its existence. But what is this element? 115, the extremely rare element 115. The moscovium element 115, from its initial theoretical assumptions to its eventual placement in the periodic table, has experienced a considerable amount of development. This journey was an example of the highest level of scientific research and the way these discoveries can lead to a better understanding of the universe and the development of emerging technology. The beginning of the element moscovium came from a highly specialized field of theoretical physics and chemistry. Long before element 115 was discovered, scientists hypothesized about its existence, relying on the periodic law and the structure of the periodic table. On the theoretical side, element 115 was supposed to be a member of the super-heavy elements belonging to the periodic table's island of stability section. Besides this, it was also revealed that certain isotopes were nuclearly stable. Before being given the name of moscovium, element 115 in the IUPAC was known as unpentium. In 2002, the synthesis of unpentium was reported by scientists at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in the USA and the Joint Institute of Nuclear Research in Dubna, Russia. The project turns into a search for scientific knowledge as well as proof of the beauty and harmony within humankind. The process was carried out using a complex technique that involved smashing americium with calcium ions. This reaction created atoms of element 115, which later dissolved into lighter elements that were separated by just a few hundredths of a second. Moscovium is an element with an atomic number of 115. Its properties are as fascinating as how it was discovered. The most stable moscovium isotope, Mach 290, has a half-life of roughly 0.65 seconds, which makes it far less stable than other known events that can still be seen in lab settings ahead of its quick decay. There are serious issues when scientists attempt to solve all of its problems. Nevertheless, research on moscovium and its isotopes can help us better understand the principles underlying atomic nucleus stability and super-heavy atoms. The discovery of moscovium has theoretical and practical applications. Theoretically, it proves the nuclear structure models of the yet-to-exist island of stability. As a technologically related aspect, this clarifies the behavior of atoms at the quantum level and tells the reliability of the nuclear forces and the extension that goes beyond the current knowledge of the periodic table. Moscovium may have no practical applications because of its instability, but the methods used to produce it and investigate its properties will have far-reaching consequences. These involve tests confirmed by super-heavy element chemistry, particle accelerator technology and detection techniques, and investigations at the edge of these technologies. They made further research on ultra-heavy elements possible, possibly leading to supermaterials that may later be utilized in science, energy, and many others. It must have been quite an exciting year for the science of chemistry in 2016, when the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry added a newcomer to the periodic table named moscovium. The name of this element is moscovium, which refers to the historical Moscow region, the birthplace of a huge number of great scientists and scientific discoveries, and not just the addition of a new element to the periodic table, but also the completion of multinational research teams' work. This is what makes science a global phenomenon. Although the discovery of moscovium adds an intriguing dimension to Bob Lazar's claims on the usage of elements related to element 115 in UFOs, Lazar's details regarding the element's characteristics and function in such systems remain unproven. The very fact that moscovium exists at all sparks our curiosity and serves as a reminder of the vast array of topics that science still lacks knowledge about. Or is this science of another world? Shocking connection between element 115 and aliens. Unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, are a topic of conversation that falls in the middle of belief and doubt, where the fascination with the unknown and the need for concrete evidence collide. The scientific community addresses the UFO phenomenon cautiously and emphasizes the need for trustworthy information since it has a history of doing so based on concrete facts and observable outcomes. This section looks at the majority opinion of scientists on UFOs, the consequences of official admissions and data releases, and how these developments support or refute Bob Lazar's claims. The scientific community of major research still doesn't believe in reports of alien presence and mysterious sightings in the sky since there isn't any tangible evidence to support them. The claims from scientists that extraordinary cases need extraordinary evidence and that most UFO accounts don't have that make the whole thing seem invalid. This skepticism is amplified by the fact that anything else, like atmospheric phenomena or optical illusions, can explain sightings, and sometimes people see aircraft as extraterrestrial spacecraft. The USA begins to take into account UAPs, flying objects that, against standard thinking on this subject, appear and disappear without leaving traces. The declassification of pilot testimony and military films about encounters with objects exhibiting unusual flying characteristics has revived the conversation. Governments all across the world have started to remove the curtain of secrecy surrounding military contacts with weird aerial phenomena in recent years. These acknowledgments show that some observations do not have a complete explanation, but do not prove that these objects are alien. This is an important distinction. The recognition of UPAs is an admission of strange events that need scientific study, not a support of extraterrestrial visitation. Against recent revelations, Bob Lazar's story regarding reverse engineering alien spacecraft in Area 51 and employing element 115 as a driving mechanism finds both major disagreement and indirect support. Lazar's comments are arguably less ridiculous now than they were a few decades ago, given the circumstances under which UAPs were adopted by the government. Consistent with Lazar's comments on private projects, the military and government agencies appear to be exploring the possibility of very advanced, unknown flight technologies. But careful research has Lazar's comments about extraterrestrial technology in item 115 shows a significant difference. Both the existence of anti-gravity materials and the claimed use of moscovium element 115 are not supported by publicly available information, as Lazar explained. Regarding stability and the potential for use as an interstellar fuel, Lazar's depiction of moscovium's qualities differs from what is known now. The way information leaks about crop circles and UFO sightings highlights the importance of scientific investigation in solving mysteries. Researchers argue for the need for careful monitoring, as well as the collection and analysis of the available information as the best approaches to discovering more details about UAP. This method seeks to differentiate fiction from facts by identifying various sources of sightings, including natural or artificial ones, to collect data on encounters with real, unexplained phenomena for further research. It could be said that it is an attempt to apply scientific research to the mystery of aerial phenomena using data collection and analysis of real witnesses. And tracking technology shows that there is a task force on UAP. These activities undertake to enlarge knowledge about observed objects to discover aviation risks and threats to national security. The science behind the examination of UFOs and UAPs does not in any way support or disregard Bob Lazar's point of view as a whole. It rather points to the problem of investigating phenomena that are outside the scope of present scientific cognition. Despite its intriguing nature, scientists would not accept Lazar's story because there is insufficient data to support it. Positive developments have nevertheless occurred, as several organizations are adopting greater transparency and doing research using exacting scientific procedures. It creates a framework for assessing claims such as Lazar's and encourages a more informed and thorough public discourse. Knowing if UFOs are real or not remains a mystery, but is it possible to travel between galaxies? Exploring the cosmos. The ideas of anti-gravity and intergalactic moving intrigue people, and they imagine that in the future, humanity will be able to leave Earth and go into space. Seeing this become feasible by researching the concepts that might go against our notions about space, time, and energy is now possible because of theoretical physics. This looks into the scientific basis of warp drive, anti-gravity, and element 115, a theory produced by Bob Lazar, which claims that element 115 could be responsible for the development of these technologies. In physics, anti-gravity, the capability to overcome gravity's pull without instruments, is still only in the realm of theory. According to the general theory of relativity, gravity is a description of the space-time curve around masses, as popular wisdom suggests. To overcome or manipulate this power, one has to interact with the cosmos's fundamental structure, which is now outside of the reach of the technology available or used based on accepted scientific principles. One of the plausible ideas may very well be the warp drive, which surely belongs to the class of the most exciting suggestions for traveling faster than light. The scientist Miguel Alcubierre suggested the Alcubierre drive model, which stipulates that some void can be formed in front of a spaceship and stretched behind it with the help of the contraction of space and its expansion. According to Bob Lazar's assertions, element 115 moscovium is a crucial part of the claimed alien driving technology, and when hit by protons, it may produce a gravitational field. Proposals for warp drives and anti-gravity technologies in theoretical physics heavily rely on the idea of exotic matter with negative energy density. Exotic matter has the potential to theoretically produce the conditions needed for space-time manipulation, which is a requirement for the Alcubierre drive. But moscovium, as we know it today, was not created with these characteristics. It has no known ability to create or modify gravitational fields in the way that Lazar describes, and it decays extremely quickly. There is a huge leap from theoretical models to real-world technologies in interstellar travel and anti-gravity. For example, the energy needed to form a warp bubble is astronomical. Originally, it was calculated to be the same as the mass energy of a planet the size of Jupiter. These requirements may be far lower, according to recent theoretical developments, but the formation and stabilization of a warp bubble are still entirely hypothetical and still need to be supported by experimental data. Furthermore, the suggested manipulation of space-time demands the existence of, at most, hypothetical forms of matter and energy, yet the hunt for dark matter and studies of the quantum vacuum may eventually reveal phenomena that fit these specifications. Their analysis demonstrates how little we know about the fundamental forces of the cosmos, and hence, anti-gravity and warp drive technologies are not supported by the current level of knowledge. The transfer to practical application and the purpose of components like 115 in these technologies remain theoretical, despite the intriguing possibilities presented by the theoretical foundation. The quest for interstellar travel is both a technological test and a deep exploration of the universe's and physics principles. Bob Lazar's story has gotten many people raising questions, sharing testimonies, and some heavy backlashes, but is his revelation true? The Bob Lazar's effect. The tale of Bob Lazar has caused division among followers and experts alike, giving rise to a phenomenon called the Lazar effect. This examines the variety of reactions that the general public and scientific community have given to Lazar's claims, evaluating the levels of doubt and support that have grown around his story. The public was fascinated by Lazar's revelations about Area 51 and alien technology, which led to a continuing obsession with UFOs and government cover-ups. Lazar's story gave UFO believers a concrete connection to the government's long-suspected knowledge about aliens and their technology. His detailed account of an extraterrestrial craft and discussion of the element moscovium, later officially recognized, made him a cult hero. Supporters argue Lazar's claims about moscovium and Area 51 ring true because he provided so many specific details that seem implausible to fabricate or guess. To them, he represents a brave whistleblower willing to risk his safety to expose an important national issue. Critics from the science world doubt Lazar's claims. They note he hasn't shared full details, has contradicted himself about events, and lacks credible witnesses. Also, Lazar's explanation of the alien aircraft's flight system and support capabilities goes against known scientific principles and knowledge. His claims about this element being stable and suitable for the described tasks were inconsistent. Public views were shaped by Lazar's TV interviews and online presence spreading his story. The public's increased distrust of the government at that time contributed to the growing popularity of Lazar's claims due to their dramatic quality. Even though some media sources treated Lazar's explanation with caution, other media outlets published his arguments without doing a proper critical investigation at all. Through the Lazar effect, public opinion becomes more complicated. Furthermore, it could be interpreted through the theory of confirmation bias, that individuals tend to believe more in the evidence that supports their preliminary assumptions or beliefs. In the eyes of those who believe in UFOs and government conspiracies, Lazar's stories were evidence that could only strengthen their belief. The psychology of humans also contributes to maintaining the difference between believers and non-believers. This is the factor that has been there from the beginning. Regardless of one's belief in Lazar, the debates around his claims have exposed the need for transparency and accountability from military and governmental organizations. Lazar's effect emphasizes the value of using science to look into paranormal claims, and his narrative has sparked a lot of interest in sharing UFO and UAP data, leading to a more candid discussion about supernatural topics in recent years. Allegations are supported or rejected by evidence, dependability, and peer review in the scientific method. Lazar contends that this argument, which lacks scientific support and hasn't been thoroughly examined, points to the problems that occur when the public is drawn in by exaggerated news. Looking back, there have been some similar occurrences confirming Lazar's claims. Let's take a look. Shocking UFO encounters worldwide. In the world of UFO investigation, Bob Lazar's story, which contains suspected government deception, is hardly uncommon. On the other side, there are now more people providing first-hand reports of government-related projects, alien technology, and UFO sightings. We examine the impact of some of these incidents on our knowledge of extraterrestrial technology and the UFOs by analyzing Lazar's disclosures. The engineer Philip Schneider, who claimed to have worked on the construction of dumb, deep underground military bases that included military equipment and entities, is the most notable presence. Schneider was adamant that he had witnessed a massive battle between humans and aliens in the deep layers of the Earth. Although Schneider's claims are not underpinned by strong evidence and are resisted by many, they generate thoughts associated with Lazar's story, such as the deepness of the government's secrecy and the existence of alien technology. On the other hand, UK hacker Gary McKinnon broke into NASA and US military networks in 2001 in an attempt to find proof of extraterrestrial life and free energy technologies. Because digital evidence was used in McKinnon's case, the outcome differs from other people's allegations about the space program. The allegation was that McKinnon possessed proof of the existence of a program called Solar Warden, which he said included a fleet of spacecraft that protected Earth from extraterrestrial attacks. However, he did not offer any hard evidence to back up his claims. His activities will demonstrate the extent to which people will go to obtain knowledge about UFOs and supposedly classified extraterrestrial technology. After listening to the military frequency in the 1980s, Paul Benowitz, an electrical specialist, became convinced that these were messages from alien spacecraft. His study revealed that, in reality, there existed a deep, covert outpost near Dulce, New Mexico, where humans collaborated with extraterrestrials to carry out unlawful activities. Berkowitz's account added to the notion of covert agreements between governments and extraterrestrials, and his claims also mirrored Lazar's account about Area 51, even though it was eventually clarified that he was tricked by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations to divert him from significant military classified projects. Edgar Mitchell, an astronaut on Apollo 14 and the sixth person to set foot on the moon, publicly stated that he believed in alien life and that the government was covering up strange flying objects all over the planet. Given that Mitchell was a highly esteemed astronaut, what he says carries particular weight. His willingness to publicly discuss UFOs and alien life, despite the lack of hard evidence to back up his claims, is a strong parallel to Lazar's account and suggests that people with different backgrounds and access to different types of classified information have reached similar conclusions regarding extraterrestrial occurrences. David Grush publicly declared that we are not alone and that American authorities are hiding the evidence that would support this claim and end the ongoing discussion about alien existence. Testifying that he believes the government has UFOs and the corpses of their non-human operators, David Grush is a former National Reconnaissance Officer for the Pentagon's task force, where he oversaw the analysis of unusual flying objects. At a House Subcommittee on National Security, Border and Foreign Affairs hearing titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Implications on National Security, Public Safety, and Government Transparency, he was one of 3 witnesses who gave testimony. UAPs are the new name for UFOs. Grush claimed that the head of a government task group on UAPs ordered him to list all highly classified projects associated with the task force's objectives in 2019. He claimed that although he was restricted from accessing classified federal UAP programs, his job as a government employee was to look into what the military, defense, and other agencies knew about aliens and extraterrestrial vessels. Mr. Grush informed the panel that he had experienced retaliation after filing a whistleblower complaint in 2022. He said that his claims had damaged him both personally and professionally. He told the committee that he knew other people who had suffered because of the government's efforts to hide facts regarding unidentified flying objects. Mr. Grush claimed twice during the hearing that he was unable to publicly comment on the information because it was confidential. He would not comment on whether the Pentagon had obtained the corpses of downed UFO pilots or whether the U.S. administration had spoken with living aliens. Nevertheless, Mr. Grush did testify before Congress that he had personally observed extremely uncomfortable alien technology or beings interacting with humans, and that the U.S. possessed a large spacecraft of unknown origin. After conducting in-depth interviews with people who personally witnessed extraterrestrial craft, he declared that the U.S. government is hiding facts concerning UFOs from both Congress and the general public. According to Grush, the sources of the information he utilized in his testimony were persons who have a lengthy track record of being reliable and beneficial to our country. Numerous individuals presented compelling evidence in the form of official documents, top-secret testimonies, and images. In all this, Mr. Grush wasn't alone. Tim Burchett, one of the representatives, backed the notion that the administration was hiding information. Tim declared they were going to expose the cover-up at the beginning of the session, which included testimony from 2 retired Navy sailors who claimed to have seen UFOs. Transparency in government is at the center of the entire situation, and they can't trust a government that doesn't trust its citizens, Tim says. Mr. Grush's testimony was further supported by the fact that it was given under oath. He made the claims about alien contact while testifying, and if he is found guilty of perjury, he may spend 5 years in prison. But in a move that seemed to reject the testimony, Sean Kirkpatrick, the chief of the Pentagon Division, tasked with finding potentially dangerous UFOs, also informed lawmakers that the agency had not found any evidence of extraterrestrial activity. According to him, there is currently no reliable proof of extraterrestrial activities, off-world technology, or items that defy accepted physics. This is according to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Because of these and other whistleblowers and possible leaks inside the UFO community, official narratives concerning unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life have been continuously called into question. Many of these individuals, like Lazar, have had to contend with uncertainty, skepticism, and challenges in substantiating their claims. But their stories contribute to a wider narrative that suggests a complex relationship between high-tech, government secrets, and potential alien contacts. Analyzing the accusations made by Lazar and other whistleblowers is challenging since it is innately challenging to verify stories that contain highly secret or non-public information. What are your thoughts on Element 115, which has finally been seen? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.